Hello, Ben here with you once again for Studio on the Lake. Here's a little project in the middle, trying to keep up with Jordy, and I couldn't possibly put out that many videos, but here's a little fun one. This is a kind of a rubber ducky take off a wooden duck. Here's some of the older ones that I did over the last 20 years or so. This one's not really a duck, more of a little bird, but I thought I'd make one with attitude. So here's the finished product. Hopefully you stick around and watch how that guy gets created, but he's got a little bit of an attitude, and he has a pretty big head, almost too big. As you'll see at the end, he wants to fall over, but I'll throw some lead in the bottom of him there. As always, you got to get ready to carve, so you got to clean your chair out. You do need to fluff your pillow up that goes underneath your arm there. So there, we're all set. Couple pieces of scrap basswood. I was kind of impressed. I looked on the inside of these, and they're really amazingly clean for some reason. I don't know. But we go ahead and lay out the pattern. We'll do it in two parts so that the grain goes across the beak of the bird, and then that way if someone karate chops him on the nose, they won't break. And that's a grave danger with the dwarves running around. So there's the body, and then we'll go ahead and put the head on. And he does have a big old fat head, as you can see. That one I think is made out of elm wood. It resembles black walnut to some degree. It's really hard and takes quite a long time to carve. This basswood is not. It's soft, or relatively soft, even though it's classified as a hardwood. So I'll leave a little extra space on his neck there. I'll take these over the bandsaw and cut these out. So cut out, there they are. As you've heard me say before, always draw center lines for reference, because this guy's not in the round now. He's blocked out. The big secret to carving is start with a big block and then start to cut it down with various different planes and whatnot. I thought this was kind of cute. It looked like a whale. You could make a whale out of this guy, so I drew that on the front there. Really not a whole lot of difference the way he's all set up. So this is the head. That was the body that turned out to look like a whale. And here's the head that is going to get carved down. And I'm just kind of drawing some line. Those lines are pretty much going to be the high reference line. So the high marks. When I start taking away, these marks will be the last ones that I take off, and they kind of give a flow. And you saw me there. That's just to get across the middle and center. And then I look back and forth on that to make sure I kind of got the flow going straight. So that's how it's going to go together when I get to that point. Don't try this at home. That's my big DeWalt 4.5 inch with probably 36 grit on it, I imagine. Either 36 or an 80. And I'm going to take and contour the edges, take the excess off the edges so that I can finish carving him in the round. It's just a lot quicker to do this with this. And I'm really taking light cuts. I'm actually holding that pretty good, but I'm taking really light cuts, and it's been many years since I've nicked my hand or my finger with the edge of that sanding disc. It will take off skin for sure. So they're kind of leaving him around. I do hold those really lightly, and if it does catch, I hold it, and then I very light touch with that grinder, and if it catches, it tends to throw it off in the corner there somewhere, as opposed to grab grab my hand. So even though it doesn't look safe, many years of doing this has made it safe. Now, I would never try this with one of the chainsaw blades that go out there. So there's the bottom, and there's the top. Must have I think I had a mosquito bite, because there are mosquitoes out here on the lake. There, got it all scratched. Good to go. So back to rounding out the body. A lot of this I will go ahead and speed up, but there are some sections in here where I went and left it alone so you can see real time on this. This is probably not a real long one. This is probably 2 hours. All said, maybe an hour and a half on this guy. I do have the TV going in the background. I just happen to be watching The West Wing over again, which is nice banter for the background. And this is speeded up 3 times. When I do speed them up, typically 3 times. And there goes the whale's eye going out of the way. I was really tempted to stop and cut out another one just like this and turn it into a whale real quick. I did quite a few whales in a past life when we were out, when I was stationed at West Point. We had a wood carving shop. New Englanders like their whales. There's not a whole lot of whales up here in northern Wisconsin, so not much need to do those. As well as the nautical themes that sell really well out on the East Coast that show little to no interest here in the upper Midwest. That's a Cuts-All burr. They did send me an affiliate program for Cuts-All, but for some reason I can't get into the secret squirrel passwords. I put in the password and it says, still wait until we verify your account. So when that gets all set up, you'll be able to pick those out, and I'll do a couple of videos on the burrs that I use, and you can get a discount by following that link, but we're not quite there yet. Along those same lines, we're looking at 950, I think, 950 subscribers, and I was impressed, getting ready to go over 1,000. As everybody, well, maybe you don't know, to get monetized and put those annoying ads on the front of it and get a few dollars, enough to buy a cup of coffee every now and again, you need 1,000 subscribers initially and 4,000 view hours in the last year. And I was pretty sure, looking at it, the view hours here a couple months ago, that I was fine, but apparently I'm only at 3,300 view hours, so apparently it's not keeping people's attention. I'm short about 600 view hours, but I'm sure those will pick up as the time goes through. Either that, or you guys just watch this thing all the way through and quit screwing around and jumping around on it. But we'll get there. We'll get there on that. And then I am working on the Facebook page, and that'll get up and going, and we'll put Instagram and get this whole thing connected. So there's a wing. I needed to go back to the reference, and reference noted. And for symmetry, you got to look at both sides and do it on the other side. This is not a Cuts-All bit. This is a saber bit. Some people don't like the two of them. One of them likes saber, and other folks like the Cuts-All bits. I find them to be relatively the same. I use primarily the yellow, which is a fine, supposedly, and it does pretty good damage. That's kind of a long flame. And like I said, I will put together a video here later on with the different ones, but I'm just undercutting or reliefing the wings, plural, of course, on that. Hey, if you guys haven't done so by far, I'm going to put down in the bottom there, go over and check out Jordy Johnson's Carving Fusion. He's a great guy. Part of this little carving community thing we got going on, and we make a lot of fun of each other. And if you've been watching both our videos, you'll notice that earlier in this, there was a reference that only insiders would get. But the wing is reliefed there, and now I'm going back and doing a little bit more round work. When you're carving these things in the round, you want to not spend a whole lot of time on one section, but take little bites kind of all over and keep turning it around and looking at it. There is a lot of stuff in here that I edit out. I shoot pretty wide angle, and then I narrow down the focus on this, and I zoom in and keep it in the center of the frame. But well, sometimes I keep it in the center of the frame. But some of the stuff that I edit out will be a minute or so of me just doing kind of what I was doing there, turning it around and looking at it and making sure that he is doing what I want him to do. So there's the body roughed out relatively, and we're going to go in and put the reference lines on the head. If you know anything about bird carving, the eyes are fairly deep set in a socket, and then there's a little ball on the head. This guy's kind of cartoony, so I exaggerated the top, and that's what I'm doing right now, is the top of his head above his eyes. I'm setting where I want to make that a big round ball. In the comments, go ahead and leave comments. I will one of these days get back to doing a couple of decoys that are proper decoys and they're not cartoonish. I've got a big white swan over in the corner that I wanted to redo, and one of these days I'll do that. I still am working on the cuckoo clock. I keep getting sidetracked by these. I watch Jordy, and he cranks out videos. Just Carve Rob is cranking out videos. Mark the Maker is doing stuff. Doug Linker seems to have slowed down a little bit and went back to his bushcraft ways. Of course, he picks up 40,000 views when he does that, so you can't blame him. A lot more people are apparently interested in roughing it out in the woods than sitting in a chair with a pillow under your arm and carving. Personally, I can leave the woods. I live on the lake, and I got the wood lot out there with the garden. If I want to go out and get eaten by bugs, I can do that pretty quickly. DEET is man's best friend around here, around the lake and out of the woodlot, especially when it starts to get dark. So there's the round portion on the top of his head. I left this portion right here in real time because I thought it might be interesting to see how I kind of start to get a little bit of the character of this guy. And just how long it takes to do that. I've taken a couple weeks off, so there'll probably be a couple videos that I get posted. This summer seems to be zooming by pretty quick. And I've got projects, 2 houses here on the lake that need some work on them. One of them needs the finished roofing before winter sets in up here. And I'm still trying to figure out how to build my shop out at the woodlot. I've got the sawmill up and running out there, cutting timber for post and beam for the shop. Just not enough time in the day to get all these projects done. So I'm starting to work down on the bill. This is where I'm kind of going slow, because if I screw this up, there's just no saving it. It'll have to get chopped up and thrown away. Putting the center reference lines back in. I keep that thing stuck behind my ear, and that's how I was able to grab it so quick. Otherwise it gets thrown in a pile in the corner over there and I'll never find it. So now I'm starting to set in the edges of the beak. And this is symmetrical, so you're going to see me take small cuts on either side. try to equal them out. All right, now we're getting brave. I'm gonna round that out. He is a cartoon, so I don't have to get too crazy about it. I just want it to be a big old fat beak or bill on the end of that. And once again, I did leave this in real time. I think this is about the end of the real time. I'm going to start flipping back and forth like I normally do. I'll show you a little bit in real time and then zoom ahead if it's not something that is interesting. This is the trickiest part. Well, I shouldn't say that. The eye socket is fairly tricky. The transition between his bill. We're trying to make this guy look like he has a little bit of an attitude, maybe slightly twisted from something. In the cartoon aspect, with the big head, babies tend to have monster heads, and I don't know if that's true in ducks or animals, but I suspect it probably is very similar without giving it a whole lot of thought. If we see a large head on something, and we just kind of assume that it's a baby. So I'm working the top of his bill down. I am working from both sides. And I wanted to look and see how I'd undercut the bill to give him an attitude. His bill kind of swoops up. And now it's time to hollow out the underside of that bill. And this is real time. And those of you getting started in carving, take small bites. You'll learn what grabs on that bit and what doesn't, and different techniques. I still get caught once in a while where it will grab, and if it grabs just at the right time, it can completely screw something up. So as you start to get towards the finished product, lighter cuts are definitely the better way to go. I'll even switch over to a diamond bit so that I can't take too much. So now he's got big old jowly cheeks on the side on that one, and I'm going to put those in on this guy here. And of course he has two sides. And they kind of meet in the back and kind of a little V groove there. You can kind of see how much I left on there. I blocked it out, but I didn't take it all the way down. And I've said this before, when you're carving, things start out square and you tend to go towards the round. As a beginner, you'll find that one of the mistakes that you'll make is you won't take it far enough. You'll get all done with it and you're happy with it and set it aside, and then come back and look at it a couple days later and you'll notice that it's kind of blocky, that you were afraid to cut down into it. Conversely, if you've been carving a little while, and those of you that have can attest to this, you'll have a tendency to overdo it and cut it down too far. Wood carving is subtractive as opposed to additive. Sculpture is additive. You can put clay back on. Wood carving is subtractive. Once you take it away, it's gone. The only way to fix it is, in a lot of cases, is either to glue a piece on and start over again, or completely start over again, block out. And that's kind of annoying after you've got 3 or 4 hours, or some of the bigger pieces that I'll do. I might have 15 hours into it, and I really get annoyed if I have to start all over again. This is a repeat of one that I did, I don't know, 15 years ago, give or take. And I have found that my wife comments that typically the first one is the best. If I'm duplicating pieces, when we were selling quite a bit with the shop, I was cranking pieces out, and I did notice that the more that I did a piece, it tended to lose a little bit of its character. The first one has the best character. That may just be my opinion. The only way to tell if something people like it is if they buy it, in my humble opinion. And a lot of times people will buy the stuff that I don't like. If I get a carving I don't like it, I'll find that someone really does like it. And the stuff that I'm really fond of, no one seems to be particularly interested in, which is good in a way, I guess, and you can keep it. But I have hundreds of wood carvings all over the house and in the studio. We will be getting back to the dragons and the paint. I got some new, one of the dwarfs was here. Dwarf number 1, grandson, was here last week, and he put a hurting on the Josonia paints. This is kind of interesting. This I do on the decoys too. This is just a drywall screw that I screw into both pieces initially just to get it started, and then I'll take and screw it into one piece and cut the head off. I used to use wooden pegs for this, and now I've taken to using those because I can screw them in and adjust the head the direction I want. You can see that I'm playing around with where his head goes. And you're starting to get an idea. He's blocked out. He doesn't have eyes, and he doesn't have the finish cuts, but he's not going to get too fancy. I stayed away from the epoxy this time. I don't know why. I just grabbed some super glue, a CA glue, to throw that head on. And with that screw and screwing it down in there, it makes a pretty good bond. This guy has a danger of his head getting knocked off, but if it does, it'll just get repaired someday. So there he's kind of looking to the side. I threw him on a flat piece of plywood to see how he's coming out, and I like it. So another thing that beginners have a little bit of trouble with, and I still do to this day, is getting the eyes symmetrical. So a lot of times you can't see both eyes, but they should read, and one should not be further forward, higher up on the head, etc., yada yada yada. Another way to do this is take 2 push pins and stick them in the center of that, and then you can turn it around and look at it, and you can adjust those pins. And for some reason, the eyes really don't end up where you thought they should. I thought that one should have been back a little bit further, and it turned out that it needed to be a little forward. You see my initial line there. So there's a box of eyes. I pulled the original box of eyes out, and one of the dwarves had taken that and dumped that box out, put his stuff in there while he was out in the studio, and dumped my eyes in the big box. So I went with one of the bigger yellow ones, back to a round saber bit, and I'm not taking real care on these eyes. The one thing I am doing, they're going to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to set them in with woody putty, wood epoxy putty, just like I normally do. If I'm doing a competition piece or a piece that's a little bit more important than this character, I will take the time to get the actual size of the eye plus a hair, so the eye is really kind of press fit in there, and then the epoxy. This one I just went to town and made it big enough that the eye will pop in there, and you'll see that in a minute. Now I did undercut the upper lid because to make him kind of angry, the top of his eye needs to be set up in there. There's what I set eyes with. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, it's quick wood. It's a 2-part epoxy. There's various different versions of this out there. Don't get the plumber's putty or whatever. That's nasty stuff. And don't get the steel stuff. They make some things that looks just like this, same kind of tube, only it's gray, and you start kneading it and it'll just turn your hands nasty color. It gets pretty hard, and you can't mess around with it. If you repair in steel, seems to be pretty worthwhile for some of that. It's not a bad repair. You just knead this together for 2 or 3 minutes, and then I just stuff it in the eyelid there and make it smooth, and then I'll push the eye into that. The other side was already done. I did both of them the same time, and this stuff I will save, and if I want to put an eyelid on after the fact. So the eyes on there are sitting on there, and then I just push it down in until the putty starts to ooze out around the eye. I can position that eye and float it around the back of that knife that's in my hand there, I use a lot of times to push the eye in. This case I didn't have to. And then I'm just going to come back and take the putty off. I'm going to leave a little bit on the upper portion of the eyelid there, because like I said, you can kind of see right now that he's starting to get kind of an angry look, and that's what I'm trying to go for. And the way you do that is to put a heavy eyebrow coming down over the eye. I like this part. This is my favorite part. When you stick the eyes in, they have a tendency to come alive to me at that point. You can do eyes without and carve them in and then paint them on if you choose to do that. Some people are really good at it. I can actually do it, but I don't have the patience to do that anymore. But when you get done painting an eye on, then come back over with fingernail polish, clear fingernail polish, and it'll give you that depth that you're looking for, and make it look more like a glass eye. Like I said, a lot of carvers are really good at it. So there he is with his eye set, and his basic attitude is going, looking good. I'm kind of happy with that. I will come back and put a little smile on him, and then the finish, smoothing and whatnot. So there's the initial part of the finish. I'm going ahead and rounding out the cheek and the top of the head. I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of my marks off that were reference lines and blend the neck down into the body. It's a real simple project. Anybody can do it. I don't know what the value of doing a rubber ducky is. You could paint this guy yellow or orange. It's just a fun one to do. And it's fun not to copy. I mean, it's not hard to copy a regular. They seems to be a rubber ducky standard over the years. Heck, here they on one of the local rivers, they have duck races. You pay for your duck. It gets a number on the bottom, and then they let him off on one bridge, or let 100 of them off on a bridge, or 1,000, however many people enter, and they go downstream and see which ones made it to the finish line. So I'm doing a little bit of the work around the wings there, and bringing the body in, and then he's got a tail. You can tell he's a male duck. Most male ducks have a big old curly tail feather that sticks up in the air. In reality, they don't show up till the duck is full size and 5 or 6 months old. This guy can't be more than 3 or 4 weeks old. So kind of getting the transition down in there on his bill. I've switched to a diamond flame. I use these a lot. This is probably one of my favorite. It's just like sanding. It smooths it down, but and it's not as aggressive. And I'm just kind of contouring all the parts and pieces, getting them to run in and flow together. And I'm doing my best. I did not hit the eye on that. On occasion, I'll tag one of those eyes, and you can definitely see that diamond bit will etch that glass eye. But if you happen to do that, there's a quick fix for that. Once again, it's that clear fingernail polish, and put a drop on the eye that you damaged, and then just to make it look the same, put a drop on the eye that you didn't damage. Hopefully, if you damaged both the eyes, then obviously that'll take care of it. And most times that will settle into the scratch and take care of that for you. It's not a bad deal, because these eyes are not necessarily cheap. They're $3, $4, $7, $8 for the bigger ones a pair. I use Tohican glass eyes, if you're interested. It's a German company, and they're basically taxidermy eyes. That's their claim to fame in wood carvers. You can get cheaper ones, but they look cheap. So we're just blending everything in and getting down towards the end of this guy. Not going to put a whole lot of time on it. I'm going to do a quick burnish on this guy. And as usual, I'm not going to put any finish on it. I'll let you decide what you want to do with the finish. If you were to build one, I think if I were to finish him, I would just put a shellac on him, like a amber shellac, so that it had a little bit of a orangish tint to it. And if you stuck around this long, you're helping me get those other 600 hours that I need to get over that 4K mark. I guess once you get there, it doesn't matter. But this thing is kind of additive. The channel's been up a year, just a little over a year, and the subscribers are just popping in. It's great. I don't think I'll ever get to the point where it doesn't matter how many subscribers are on there. It's still interesting to see the subscriptions popping in, and I go through and typically look up the folks that are, to get an idea who's looking at it. So here's something that's I have done on a few things before. I'm just using the back of that one knife handle. That's a homemade knife, by the way. I think that's an elm handle, and I'm burnishing on his beak, and that just makes it kind of shiny. Now, if I were to come back with some wax on him, and I just use Johnson floor wax typically, and I might put a little tint in it on occasion, but that would take really well. So I think we're going to call him done. You can actually sand away to your heart's content. I might have put a little putty around the neck there if I were going to paint him, so you didn't get a neckline, but he's got a bit of an attitude there. And you can see I did put a little grin on him. So there's an angry rubber ducky. And you can see the character part of this guy. His head is big. My wife thought his head was way too big. And there's the old one that I did many years ago, kind of as a joke. And I liked him, so I kept him. And that was the pattern. And there he is. See, he's a little top heavy with that monster head. I probably would have made the body a little bit wider had I done some more planning. But I'll put a little bit of I'll put a fishing weight and epoxy it in the bottom of him there. I did sign the bottom of them, by the way. I do sign all of them. But that's what he looks like, and he can join the other ones just sitting out there. Hey, thanks a lot. This has been Ben with Studio on the Lake. So like, comment, check out Jordy, Just Carve Rob, Mark the Maker, those other characters over there. Thanks for watching.